Hello, this is Ron Goldie. I'm the Senior Extension Educator for Michigan State University, working out of the Southwest Michigan Research and Extension Center in Benton Harbor. And if you know anything about MSU's research stations, we are the station that is in the very southwest corner of Michigan, just around the lake from Chicago. And this is where we have a fair amount of fresh vegetable production. The primary vegetables are slicing cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, um, yellow squash, and zucchini. And we also grow a fair amount of asparagus. And we also grow a wide range of other vegetable crops as well. And we routinely do variety trials here at the station. And you see an aerial shot of the station here on the right, which the vegetable plots are primarily on the southern side of the station, and the northern side is mostly fruit plantings, and research is done there. So today I'm going to talk about the pepper trial that we did in 2020. We had a fair number of entries, both in bell peppers and specialty peppers. Bell peppers, we had 20 entries. Specialty peppers, we had 19. And you see on this here is kind of a busy slide, but you see the names or the experimental numbers of the various entries, as well as the seed companies that entered them. Now, we do these trials annually. This past year was the pepper trial. We also do a tomato and cucumber trial in other years, but we don't do the same trials every year. We usually rotate every other year. But this past year was the year, 2020 was the year for peppers. So the bell peppers, they were all entered into a statistically analyzed trial. But when you're looking at specialty peppers, when you've got all kinds of different ones in there, we can't lump them all together and do the statistical analysis on all of them, but we can break them out into their various types, or bananas or jalapenos or lunchbox peppers. And so when it comes to analyzing the various things, we broke them out and analyzed them separately. And you're going to find more if you go to the Midwest Vegetable Variety Trial Report than what I'm actually going to talk about here. So fertilizer for this trial, we put a total of 219 pounds of nitrogen per acre. That's usually a bit more than what we usually put on. Usually we're pushing around 180 or so. But last year we had a little bit of trouble getting size out of our peppers. I think it probably had to do with the time that they were planted. That they went into a real stressful time shortly after planting. And peppers are quite susceptible to whether it's heat stress or cold stress. In this case, it was heat stress. We went into a fairly hot time right after transplanting, so they seem to have trouble growing when they are stressed like that. So we gave them an extra shot of nitrogen to see if we could push them along. The phosphorus and the potassium and magnesium levels were all adjusted according to a soil test that was taken. Rarely do we ever have to add any phosphorus to our soils. We've had years and years of triple 19 put on this planting putting on the site prior to the university coming in ownership of it. So phosphorus is there in pretty good quantities. Usually we put on anywhere from 100 to 150 pounds per acre of potassium. And then lately we've routinely been putting on 25 pounds of 95% sulfur. And our sites are quite sandy, so they're fairly low in boron. So again, we routinely put on about 4 pounds of boron each year. Also during the season, we did put on some Epsom salts, 10 pounds to the acre, with some additional potassium, calcium, magnesium, and micronutrients, and a plant growth regulator that's in a product called Nitro Plus and another product called Urea Mate. When I fertilize peppers, generally what I do is I like to put on pre-plant. I'll put on all the phosphorus if we need it, potassium, magnesium if we need it. This year we didn't need it, sulfur and boron as a pre-plant. And then I will put on 75% of the nitrogen needs prior to the first fruit set. And that's so that I can develop a sizable plant. A lot of growers make the mistake of not front loading their nitrogen. And what you end up with, if you don't do that, is you end up with a plant that is fairly small and spindly and then starts setting fruit. And once that plant starts setting fruit, you'll never get a good sized plant out of it. And you won't get the yield potential that you're really looking for. So I always put on 75% of my total nitrogen plants prior to that first fruit set. Usually that is about by July 10th is when I am done putting on that 75%. And then I just put smaller amounts on after that, maintenance amounts, basically. Planting date for this trial was June 3rd, a little later than what we usually plant. Usually we shoot for about May 20th, but because of COVID this past year, I was delayed in starting my seed, which delayed me in planting my seed out to the field. And then harvest dates for this trial were August 10th and 18th, and then September 1st and 15th, only 4 trials. Rarely do we get a fifth trial, a fifth harvest, because oftentimes that would be September 30th or so, and the quality is not very good at that time anyway. So 4 harvests is about what we get out of each of our trials. This is kind of a family picture of the 20 entries that went into the trial. And again, if you go to the Midwest Variety Trial Report, you'll see individual shots of each of these. But this is what they all looked like as a group. Most of them were green to red. We did have one green to yellow. Okay, this is a fairly busy slide based on the total yield as the highest total yield first and working its way down. Again, go to the Variety Trial Report to see what the actual separation is, because we did get, if you look at the very bottom line, that tells you, yes, we did find differences in all the things that we measured. Total yield, average number one fruit weight, which is important, yield of jumbo, extra large, large, medium, and then number twos and culls. Number twos are those fruit that are misshapen to the point that they won't be sold fresh. They could be sold as choppers or put into salads, that kind of thing. And then, of course, culls are culls. In this case, primarily due to blossom end rot is usually the thing that causes them to be culled. And so this is the bell pepper yield trial. And if you look at the statistical separation from regulator on up, none of these were statistically different in total yield, but that's not the only thing you need to look at when you're selecting a variety. Do you want something that's big? Do you want something that's has more in the extra large or large size? This past year, more money was made in the large to extra large than in the jumbo size. And a lot of supermarkets don't want jumbos because you're basically buying a lot of air when you're buying a jumbo fruit. So again, go back to the Variety Trial Report so that you can see this in more detail. But we did find separation in all of these, and that's important to look at, especially comparing total yield. Just to look at total yield, because you have to look at how many number twos and how many culls were also part of that total yield. So from that, the ones that I would suggest that growers consider are these listed here. Many of them are numbered selections put out by the various seed companies. You see the only one that is a named selection is Regulator. And that's one of the potential problems with doing yield trials of seed companies' advanced selections, because just because it looks good in our trial doesn't mean they're necessarily going to release it, because it may not look good in other trials. And so you'll have to check with the seed companies to see if they have released that, either named it or used that number as the variety number. But these are the ones that have potential that I would at least try if I was a pepper grower. And here's the pictures, close-up pictures of the top entries, 10375 and the 15 PR and the 10868. You You see they're all fairly blocky. Walls thickness varies somewhat from selection to selection. You can see we picked them a little bit on the somewhat later side. They're already changing to red, some of them, which is okay, because then you know that the variety, what the color of the mature variety is. And then here's the other three that are worth selecting, and then here's regulator. Okay, here's the group of specialty peppers, 19 specialty peppers. And what you can see is that, yes, we had some jalapenos here scattered around. We had 3 banana types. This one was not hot. This one was, and this one was as well. This one here is named Fury, which is fairly nice hot banana pepper if you want it. And then the other thing that we had was a number of these lunchbox peppers that are orange, red, in this case here purple, that we harvested a bit too late because the purple starts changing over to an orange color. And you got to be careful if you start growing a purple, because you've got to really time your harvesting down pretty good, because if it's not fully mature, the fruit can be a little bit bitter. So you want to catch it just before it starts changing to off color. And you see an empty bin here, because that is our one habanero pepper. And if any of you have ever grown habaneros, you know that they are notoriously late in their maturity. The other thing that you might be able to see from these slides is that the red varieties of these lunchbox peppers, in my experience, is that they are always on the small side. And you'll see that in some of the numbers that are coming up here soon. And here's a picture of the habanero type later in the season. So it's a nice, bright, shiny red. So it is a nice habanero, but again, you're going to only harvest it probably late August into September. So it's something that you have to be aware of, that you're probably not going to get the full economic yields out of it that you would like. But if you need to grow habanero, it turned out to be fairly good. Okay, this is just a pullout of only the lunchbox types. You see the yellows, reds, orange, and the one purple here. And again, what I'll have you point out here is that if you look at the red sweetness and the red sweetie, they are all at the low side of average #1 fruit rate. But they do have fair yields here, especially the red sweetness did. So again, this is just a section of the overall trial, and we did run statistics on these so that you can see what they're like. Okay, and again, I want to send you to the Purdue page for the Midwest Variety Trial Report. And if you see my name there, that's goldie@msu.edu. That is my email address, and I respond very readily to any emails that are sent to me. So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this enjoyable.